I just tried to enjoy the ride. What an honor to be considered. If it had been Senator Rubio, obviously Marco's a good guy. He's a good friend. So I try to just have a good attitude about it. My family's very excited, obviously asking a lot of questions. I will say, Sean, I hope I'm not betraying too many confidences here, but when the president called me today to actually formally offer me to become, the vice presidential nominee, which just sounds crazy, my 7-year-old son was sort of making noise in the background. I'm getting so embarrassed. It's like, oh my God, Donald Trump's asking me to be his vice president.
So the phone rings, he calls you, and you're like, okay, this is the call, or maybe not the call.
Or maybe it's a bad call, right? It's the call. Who knows whether it's good or bad. But then he actually has me put my 7-year-old son on the phone. You think about this. Everything that's happened, the guy just got shot at a couple of days ago, and he takes the time to talk to my 7-year-old. It's a moment I'll never forget.
So J.D. Vance is Trump's VP pick. It is official. And, I made a video yesterday talking about how I was a little disappointed in his VP pick. But ultimately, I will trust his decision. He has not given me a reason to not trust his decision, especially this time around in this campaign. And I've always talked about how I feel like this is Trump 2.0 and that he is very strategic in the way that he moves and maneuvers and the things that he says in interviews, because I've watched time and time again, for example, the Caitlin Collins interview, and I always reference this because I remember it like it was yesterday. She was trying to bait him into a gotcha moment, and he would not take it. And time again, he's continually done that in different interviews this time around. I've just watched him be extremely strategic. So I'm sure there's a rhyme and a reason as to why he made this pick. But today, I want to talk a little bit more about J.D. Vance because, he's the VP now. So with that being said, let's dive in.
J.D. Vance is the VP pick. And I think every person who pays close attention has got to be thrilled by that. And if you don't know much about J.D. Vance, I'm not even going to make a case for J.D. Vance. I'm going to tell you what I just saw, which is that every bad person I've ever met in a lifetime in Washington was aligned against J.D. Vance. And I do think the negative case is often more powerful because I know of myself, I do not think I'm a particularly good person. I have strong reasons for feeling that way. I don't always think that my side is right. I know for a fact I have been wrong many, many times. And I hope to correct and be honest about my error. So it's not like I think that, I'm always, God's always on my side. Sometimes I'm not on God's side. But I definitely know who's representing the other side. It's a lot easier to tell who the people who are only in it because they like, killing other people in pointless wars. Like, I know who those people are. And their odor is so powerful that I can smell one when he walks in the room. And every single one of those people in a line that would extend from Milwaukee to Chicago was lined up over the last week to knife J.D. Vance. Not on personal grounds. He's a perfectly nice guy. He's like one of the only members of the Senate with a happy marriage. True. But because they thought he would be harder to manipulate and slightly less enthusiastic about killing people. That's it. That he would be an impediment to their exercising power. And boy, they went after him in a way I've just kind of never seen. Which I think happens every day in Washington. I just don't have a vantage on it because I'm far, far away and grateful to be. And again, I was just reminded that this process is so ugly that normal people do not want to participate in it. And yet normal people have to suck it up and do so anyway because the consequences are just so profound and so.
So Tucker has, given his endorsement to J.D. Vance, which is obviously a good sign. I like Tucker. I think Tucker would have been a great pick as well. Probably not on my short list, but I wouldn't have complained, right? But let's check out a little bit more. Shout out to Daily Caller for this clip.
The thing the media and Congressman Ryan, they talk about this all the time. The thing they never mentioned is that poor girl was raped by an illegal alien, somebody that should have never been in this state in the first place. When the media and people like Tim Ryan accuse me of engaging in the great replacement theory, I'll tell you exactly what happens, Tim. What happens is that my own children, my biracial children, get attacked by scumbags online and in person because you are so desperate for political power that you'll accuse me, the father of 3 beautiful biracial babies, of engaging in racism. We are sick of it. you can believe in a border without being a racist. You can believe in the country without being a racist. And this just shows how desperate this guy is for political power.
I think it takes a special amount of gall to be from Joe Biden's political party and to complain about the fentanyl crisis that is ravaging not just Ohio, but the entire country, because it is Joe Biden's border policies that have invited this fentanyl into our country at record levels. It explains that wife, the word wife, is an example of the type of language that we need to eliminate. And I'm just asking if that's something you think is necessary or something you support.
I'd have to give that one some more thought.
Well, I would hope that the word wife is not something that or is something that we can all agree is a reasonable vocabulary word that most Americans use in their daily life. It's not something that we need to eliminate. And I'm very confident that the majority of Ohioans, if there's a pilot who is offended by the word wife or the word cockpit, maybe that person shouldn't be a pilot. So rather than kowtowing to people who are fragile, maybe we should actually say, if you're so worried about the words that we are using, you shouldn't be flying multi-ton metal engines through the sky. And I just ask all of us to maybe try to focus as much on real problems, like the fact that our aviation system seems to not be working as well as it used to, than the fact that we may use uninclusive or under-inclusive language.
Are you interested in being the running mate of a convicted felon?
Well, Wolf, the entire purpose of this trial was to allow the media and the Democrats to say exactly that. This is never about justice. This is about plastering convicted felon all over the airwaves, when in reality, the only thing that Donald Trump is guilty of is being in the courtroom of a political sham trial. You cannot say that this trial was anything more than politics masquerading as justice. And yes, I will help Donald Trump. I will help Donald Trump however I think that I can, Wolf, because if we allow this to happen, it's so much bigger and so much more troubling than Donald Trump. If we allow this standard that you can throw your political opponents in jail because they're doing better than you in an election, it will be the end of this country as we know it.
That is a fact. That is a fact. So those were just a few clips of J.D. Vance there. I also commented about his past comments on Uncle Trump, him saying he's a never Trumper. Okay. Well, here is him explaining those comments. I do want to be fair to J.D. Vance here because I did show those clips yesterday, and I want to show what he had to say about those comments. All right, check it out.
Already tonight. We're going to ask each of you about your views on former President Trump. But Mr. Vance, we do begin with you. You've admitted you've changed your mind on Donald Trump, but in the past you've said, quote, I'm a never Trump guy, quote, my God, what an idiot, and quote, God wants better of us. All statements you have either said or tweeted about Donald Trump at some point. The question, you have 60 seconds. Why should Trump voters, Trump supporters, vote for you?
Yeah, look, I mean, all of us say stupid things, and I happen to say stupid things very publicly. I've been very public about the fact that I voted for the president in 2020, that I was wrong about the president back in 2015, 2016, and that he's been the greatest president of my lifetime for the very simple reason, there are many, but one very important reason is that he revealed the corruption in Washington, D.C. I mean, who would have believed 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that the FBI would actually investigate illegally, get an illegal wiretap on a sitting U.S. presidential candidate. We saw that. Trump revealed it, and he revealed it in a way that showed us the stakes of the fight, which is why I'm running for this office in the first place. One thing I'd point out is that I was just north of 30 years old when I said a lot of those things. A lot's changed in my life. I re-engaged with my faith. I got baptized 3 years ago. I've had 3 kids since then. A lot's different. And one of the things that's different is that I did change my mind about Donald Trump. He was a great president. And I think at the end of the day, one of the things this race presents is an opportunity. Who actually agrees with Trump on the core issues of trade, of immigration? Who's willing to fight for an America First foreign policy? I think that's clearly me.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. We're going to move on to Mr. Dole.
Now, I do want to say, I kind of believe him. I do believe it's possible, right? That someone can go from not liking someone to liking someone, right? I went from not liking the Republican Party to absolutely loving the Republican Party. The new Republican Party, not the Republican Party of old, all right? I want to make that clear because it's a new Republican Party. And like I've said before, the Republican Party will look completely different following Trump's next term in office in a good way, right? From the voting base to the actual senators and congressmen and women, it will be completely different. Completely different. You will have a lot more senators and congressmen and women who are more like Matt Gaetz, more like Byron Donalds. A lot more folks like that. Okay. The rhinos of old that just got to sit around and be in the party, but not really vote in a Republican fashion, they will be pushed out. We're already seeing that happen. Okay, so yeah, and then of course the voting base, as I've shown you guys before, the voting base is going to look in completely different, complete people that you wouldn't have ever even thought, would have voted for Uncle Trump or voted for Republicans. Most definitely will be. Okay, most definitely will be. I will show this one last video clip here on JD Vance. All right, so check this one out.
People a sense of what it was like to live in a community like mine. I didn't think a whole lot of stories were told about white working class Americans. I didn't think a lot of stories were told about people who were struggling with some of the problems we were struggling with, joblessness, drug addiction, and so forth. And I thought that I could tell a story that would make people understand my family a little bit better, and maybe in the process, understand the struggles of a lot of families in Middletown, the state of Ohio more broadly.
JD carries where he came from everywhere with him. And he talked all the time about how much he loved Middletown and Ohio and his family. And he would tell me all of these stories about why it was the greatest place in the world. In his mind, this is the center of the universe. And that's one of the reasons that he was so enthusiastic about bringing his whole family back here.
I am from Ohio. I grew up in this state. I left to join the Marine Corps, and I came back to build a business and to raise a family because we wanted to raise our family in a place that's beautiful, that has great people, and that has great values. And this is my home. I love this place and I care about it.
These are his people. This is where he's from. These are the people who carried him through difficult times in life. And he really believes, and I believe that if he can get himself into a position to make a difference for them, he will.
I'm running for U.S. Senate because the people that I grew up around, the people across the state of Ohio who are trying to achieve the American dream, they actually need somebody to fight for them. Right now in Ohio, people who are working hard, they're playing by the rules, they're trying to get ahead, they're trying to make a better life for their children. The leaders of this country think they're stupid, they think they're bigoted, they judge their viewpoints, they're shipping their jobs overseas. No one is fighting for working and middle-class Ohioans who are just trying to build a good life for themselves. I want to be the person who's fighting for them. We are a good country with good people, and when we support each other, we actually can accomplish great things.
So yeah, that was an ad from when he was running for Senate. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Like I said before, my initial reaction was I was a bit disappointed, and I stated that. Like it, love it, or hate it, right? I'm going to state what I want to state, regardless of people's opinions on it. Okay. But at the same time, I trust Trump in his decision. Okay. Like I said earlier, he has not given me a reason to not trust his decision. Now, I do believe that he announced this so soon because of the attempt on his life. I believe that Trump wasn't going to announce this for a while longer because the spotlight was on Joe Biden. I forgot how the saying goes. If your enemy is messing up, don't interrupt them. Right? I think that's how the saying goes. Something like that, right? If your opponent is messing up, don't interrupt them. And Trump was taking that approach, right? And so that's another reason why I'm like, man, this guy's being real strategic here. That's actually really, really smart. That's really, really smart. I mean, still do your rallies and whatnot. Of course, go out and see the people, but don't do anything big. Nothing major. Don't make a VP pick. Don't make any type of announcement, right? But obviously now he had to, because if something does happen, God forbid that it ever does, right? But if something does happen, there has to be, somebody that he's kind of given that stamp of approval to, like, hey, take the reins kind of deal. So I'm not shocked that he did it. I said that he absolutely needed to. And of course he did. So yeah, but y'all let me know your thoughts on JD Vance. I think he'll be fine. I don't think we have anything to worry about here. Like I said, I think this is more of a strategic pick for Uncle Trump, ensuring that he picks up the Rust Belt in those votes in Ohio and Pennsylvania, that you know, those states, Michigan, right? Although Michigan's gonna be a little questionable, but I do feel like he can definitely win Ohio and Pennsylvania for sure. Possibly even some other places as well. Virginia is on the table at this point. I just saw a poll where Trump is up by 2. He lost by 10. Okay, the last go around lost, right, by 10. So, yeah, exciting stuff. But let me know how y'all feel about J.D. Vance. Stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.